Law Talk with Bill Sherwood is brought to you by Sherwood Legal Services.
The lawyers on air are not able to give advice about any given person's legal problem over the air. Giving legal advice requires confidentiality. Attorney-client privilege won't protect conversations literally being broadcast from a radio. If you call into this show, the attorneys don't represent you unless you sign a retainer. No paperwork, no representation. You have no expectation of privacy or attorney-client privilege on a call. This is a live broadcast. It does not get less confidential than this. The attorneys can't predict how any given legal matter will turn out. Lawyers give legal advice. They can't give you tailored advice about your legal problems without an in-person interview. Please call in with your general legal questions.
This is Talk Radio 680, WCBM, and WCBM.com. It's time now for Law Talk with Bill Sherwood.
Good afternoon. Thanks for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. Today we have the pleasure of being joined by not only a good friend of mine, but also one of my mentors, Bob Symes of the Law Office of Robert L. Symes. He was claims counsel for both USF&G and St. Paul Fire and Marine Insurance, as well as counsel to the Special Investigations Unit of both places. And then about 20 years ago, he founded his own practice over in Hampden. And proud to call him my law neighbor. We split some office space there. And then we're still also joined by his associate, Yosef Cooperman. Yosef?
Hi, I'm Yosef. I work for Bob.
And on to my right is John Koch of the Koch Insurance Agency.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm happy to have Bob here. I'm no longer the senior member, right?
I'm now far and away the senior member.
Oh, not far and away. You don't look like it.
I think you guys maybe are a little bit closer than you guys think, but Yosef's the one still here as our baby in the house. So
we were laughing because we had to tell him that their cars, you have to crank cars years and years and years ago.
Yeah,
and
Pixar didn't happen. Pixar didn't happen.
I think it's hard for anybody to believe that if they don't have to roll up a window, that somebody actually have to crank up a car to get it started.
It's just funny to me, as brilliant as Yosef
Window
is,
cranks,
and he just knows.
Car cranks? You guys are kidding.
And there wouldn't be a YouTube video of it either because they didn't have video.
Yeah, as I said, it didn't happen.
Yeah, that's why it didn't happen, right, Yosef?
Didn't happen. That's how it works.
So we're going to start off with our normal lawyer joke. Yosef, take that away.
Okay. It's cross-examination. A lawyer died, and people are suing over whether he did stuff before he died or after it. And the lawyer for the people who want the lawyer's actions to take effect are cross-examining the medical examiner. The lawyer says, you did the autopsy? The doctor says, yes. Was he dead? Yes. Well, how'd you know he was dead? Well, his brain was in a jar on my desk. But are you certain that he was actually dead? You know what? I guess he could have been practicing law. That's an old one. I don't know who wrote it, but they deserve credit. People don't give enough credit to the people who came up with lawyer jokes.
So since we don't have the identity of the person that gave us that joke, we're going to throw out the gift card to Towson Deli North to the first caller that calls in at 410-922-6680 or 1-800-922-6680. And then the best question of the day gets a gift card from John and the Koch Insurance Agency. Is the Visa gift card?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right. So,
and these would be law questions,
yes.
Correct? Law or insurance. Try to keep it to that category.
Yes. Law or insurance. Nothing about dinosaurs or automated cars.
I don't know. Dinosaur questions. They sound pretty fun.
but they exist. We've never had YouTube videos of these things. You sure they were?
I make exceptions to pics that didn't happen before 1900.
Okay.
Before the development of photography. But like the 1930s on, I'm skeptical. I think,
Sounds like fake news to me, Yosef.
Hey, it's on Twitter, though, and there are pics.
So we've hoodwinked Bob to come in and grace us with his presence to help us to talk about a lot of different insurance issues today. We're going to start talking with about property and casualty insurance because that's something the three of us that are not Bob know a lot about, but I'm still sure that Bob probably knows more because he's been practicing for a long time in that field.
At least I've been doing it longer. I don't know if I know any more, but hopefully I've learned something along the way.
So Yosef, what do you think is the is the one thing that in homeowners claims that pops up that Bob might want to be the best question to ask Bob first, because you work with him all the time.
So let's start talking about appraisals, because people don't read their policies, but if you read your policy, there is a provision that lets you go and having non-court dispute resolution about valuation, and that way you don't have to pay lawyers to go fight with people, and you keep more of your money. So it's a very important provision. And I think that's probably the best place to talk, because that is, to me, one of the most fascinating parts of a policy. And, no one reads all of the policy, but they especially don't read that part of the fine print. And it's the good fine print that helps them.
Yeah, with regard to property insurance, both homeowners insurance and commercial property insurance, there is almost always a provision for appraisal, which allows one of the parties to request, in fact, require appraisal if there's a question about the actual damage amount to the property. And that's an important distinction to make, and to remember that it has to be about the damage amount. It can't be about coverage. It can't be about liability. It has to be a dispute about how much the claim is worth, and either the insured or the insurer can invoke the appraisal clause, and each side then picks an appraiser. So Mr. Homeowner Insured picks his appraiser, and the insurance company picks its appraiser, and then the two appraisers, at least theoretically, agree on an umpire, although sometimes the two appraisers have some difficulty doing that, and somebody has to go to a lawyer, and a lawyer has to file a petition with the court. And Joseph and I have run into that, I guess, more often than I at least personally used to run into it. And it's a particularly important section of the policy for a homeowner, because it allows you to go through appraisal, and short of fraud, whatever the umpire and one appraiser agree to be the amount of the damages will be the amount of the damages, and you save yourself an awful lot as far as the expenses of the legal system. The attorney that you hire to file a petition probably doesn't have to do anything more than that. So Joseph also has been working with a number of public adjusters, and some of you probably are familiar with those, some of you are not. Joseph, can you talk a little bit about public adjusters?
Yeah, so the core of the appraisal process is that you don't need a lawyer to fight about valuation. If you're having a dispute about how much your roof is damaged, then I don't know anything about that, because I was trained to figure out how to read insurance policies, and if you give me a hammer, I can figure out which end to hit it with, maybe. Don't trust me with power tools. So you go to a public adjuster is a person who specializes in doing insurance claims, who works for the policyholder to value these claims. Usually what happens is you go to a public adjuster, and then they either act as the appraiser, they find a colleague who does the appraiser, and they do the entire process, and you don't need a lawyer, and then you get to keep all your money, and you don't get caught up in endless delays and red tape.
I've got a question about that process, too. So when I've had losses on properties before, sometimes they will take and say, okay, like some random piece of technology inside the house, maybe it got water damaged or fire damaged or whatever, and they'll say, well, you bought it for brand new at last year, and now there's some sort of set depreciation value. Do the adjusters or do the appraisers ever argue on the depreciation rate that they go with, or is that just some kind of industry standard?
So usually what happens is you have a replacement cost policy. And the replacement cost policy means that when you replace it, it all comes out in the wash and it doesn't matter.
Hopefully.
That's the actual cash value and the replacement cost, and you get the actual cash value, you start buying things, it unlocks the replacement cost. Very neat, very efficient. If you don't have a replacement cost policy, then you get into a dispute. The insurance companies have giant databases that they claim accurately depreciate things using the complex formulas that they regard as proprietary and won't tell people about. Mm-hmm. Public adjusters are usually trained on that, because usually you get to be a public adjuster by working for the insurance companies, learning how it's done, and then, when you get sick of your bosses, you open up your own shop and start working for the policyholders. And that's a very common route into the industry, and that's how people get training on using these databases. Okay. And it's a industry now. Could somebody argue that was all basically made up, and that you should be able to start arguing about the garage sale or Craigslist value of objects? I mean, sure, but it's really hard to quantify that.
I think sometimes, Bill, confusion sets into a lot of the carriers will initially settle the claim at actual cash value until you've actually replaced the item, and then you get a check for the difference. So a lot of times people will panic and they'll say, hey, I have this electronics are a bad example because they get cheaper in value as times go along.
Oh, there's a weird irony of the stuff.
Yeah,
like
it's
very
couch, strange, right?
You know, a couch loses all its value. If your old couch is 20 years old, it's worth $50 on Craigslist, but it will cost $3,000 to buy it new. But like if you buy a computer and you paid $500 for it and you used it for 5 years, and then you want to go replace it with an equivalent thing, they'll be like, how about this? We'll pay to take it away from you because that thing isn't just worthless; it's not even a good flower pot.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's an important thing for consumers to understand with replacement value. Mm-hmm. These policies are almost always providing replacement coverage. Most of them are what's called ISO Homeowner 3 forms, Insurance Services Office forms. And the replacement cost section requires the insurer to pay the difference between the actual cash value and the replacement cost after the replacement has taken place, not before.
Right.
So how do you advise your clients on that account, John?
I just warn them up front that when a claim happens, you're going to have to go out and buy the items or replace the items. They're not going to give you the full cash value of everything that you had prior to your purchase. So I think people think that that's fair as long as they understand that going in and that they don't get hit. Like I say, you have $10,000 worth of stuff that gets destroyed, and they send you a check for $5,000, and they think they're getting stuck with the difference.
Well, I've got another kind of question. This is about automobiles too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little bit of a gearhead. I've been working on a Jeep forever. If it ever gets done, I'm going to be coming to John to get insurance on this thing. But if I go and try to do the replacement value, it's a 1997 Jeep, but I've probably put $20,000 worth of engine parts and everything else together, and could have went out and bought a brand new Jeep. So if I want a replacement cost on that and it gets wrecked somehow, is there a special type of policy or a rider going to ask that up front? Or
so you can't standard collision coverage or comprehensive is actual cash value.
Right.
I've seen I think nationwide advertising that they will sell you a replacement cost policy for the first 3 years.
What we generally do at the Coke agency, we actually will write special vehicles, collector vehicles that have been enhanced and replaced. They go through a company called Hagerty, is one of the most common carriers. They have, and Bob might know a little bit more about this than I do, but it's called a stated value.
Yeah, I've seen
They agree to the stated value. So if that car is worth $20,000, if you have an accident in that car, they're going to pay you $20,000, and it's a stated value versus
all right. Let's
go
ahead and take our first commercial break, and then we'll come back with this after the commercial. Thanks.
WCBM Baltimore.
Synergy Realty Company, LLC, is a boutique real estate brokerage built to serve you. Thinking about selling your home? Sellers just mention this ad to list your home for sale with a 1.5% listing fee, which includes a home staging consultation and professional photography. Call 443-776-1846. We also have buyers covered. If you know a first-time home buyer, have them call 443-776-1846 to sign up for a free home buyer seminar that could save them thousands on closing costs, home inspections, and warranties. Are you a real estate investor? Maximize your portfolio by calling 443-776-1846 to schedule a free consultation. Or visit Synergy Realty Company online at synergyrealtyexperts.com or call them 443-776-1846.
If you need hotel accommodations for your business clients or out-of-town guests, the Hampton Inn Owings Mills is perfect. The Hampton Inn Owings Mills is located close to the heart of Baltimore. At the Hampton Inn, you'll enjoy the comforts of home and friendly service. Start your day out right with Hampton Inn's free hot breakfast served daily. In a rush and no time for breakfast? Hampton Inn Owings Mills provides free on-the-run breakfast bags. Available Monday through Friday. For lunch and business suggestions, their knowledgeable team members will direct you to the finest restaurants just minutes away. At the Hampton Inn Owings Mills, guests receive clean and fresh accommodations, free high-speed internet, a business center open 24/7. Plus, guests enjoy a heated indoor swimming pool and access to the fitness center. Book your reservations for Hampton Inn Owings Mills at hampton.com or call 410-654-2780. 410-654-2780.
Be part of one of Maryland's treasured traditions. It's the Preakness Balloon Festival, May 11th through May 13th at the Howard County Fairgrounds. This event will include activities aimed toward young children and those young at heart. Activities include handmade crafts, retail and food vendors, Kids Zone, live music on stage both Friday and Saturday, along with tethered and non-tethered balloon rides. You can even renew your wedding vows and take a balloon ride to celebrate. This event is not to be missed. For more information, go to PreaknessBalloonFestival.com. That's PreaknessBalloonFestival.com. This year's major sponsors are Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs and Wise Markets.
Eat better, spend less, that's why.
This year's Preakness Balloon Festival is brought to you in part by Glory Days Grill, Pearl's Bath and Tile, Chick-fil-A, and by Power Home Remodeling. As a small business owner, keeping up with the ever-changing marketing and social media trends can be difficult and time-consuming. Let SK Creative Solutions take the responsibility off of your plate. At SK Creative Solutions, they offer various marketing services such as social media management, website design, search engine optimization, and graphic design. SK Creative Solutions is a one-stop shop for all of your small business marketing and advertising needs. Grow your business today with the power of social media and website marketing. Visit skcreativesolutions.com for more information. When you got married, you took a vow to always be there for each other till death do you part. But what if the unthinkable happens? Would your spouse be able to make it alone financially? You need Allstate Life Insurance. Baltimore Allstate agent John Koch can help you get the coverage you need at an affordable price. Call John today, 410-931-1400, and ask for a complimentary life insurance review. Are you in good hands? Life insurance offered by Allstate Life Insurance Company, Northbrook, Illinois, and Lincoln Benefit Life Company, Lincoln, Nebraska.
The views and opinions you hear on Talk Radio 680, WCBM, and WCBM.com are not necessarily those of the owners, management, employers, and advertisers of WCBM. But they should be.
And now more of Law Talk with Bill Sherwood on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com.
Welcome back. Before the commercial break, we were talking about properly insuring a custom vehicle. But before we get back into that conversation, I want to go out and renew the call for phone calls. First caller in gets a gift card to Towson Deli North. And the best question of the day will get a $20 gift card from the Koch Insurance Agency. The phone numbers to call in are 410-922-6680 or 1-800-922-6680. So right before the break, John was talking about a certain insurance company that would actually provide coverage for a specialized vehicle.
For a specialized older vehicle that has some value to it, a stated value policy is what we always suggest doing. And generally, they're less expensive than putting it on your normal auto policy, and you can go get a specialty policy to give you the actual whatever that company agrees that you're going to insure the car for. That's what they'll pay you in a claim. So they're great policies if your car can. So
did they ask for a bunch of receipts, like where you've
done generally the car has to have some value, at least $5,000 or more, and then they will ask you to take a photo of the vehicle, and that's generally it. They have a pretty good idea when you call. The companies have car heads that are there. They know the cars.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a major problem with you can't overinsure things because it would create a moral hazard for you to destroy your car and then take the money. Yeah. And so you can get the policies, and they're because otherwise you can't really value, like if you had like a 1970 Jaguar.
Right.
The answer is that there is no ready market for a classic car like that, so you can't just say, oh, well, what's a 2012 Corolla cost these days?
It's surprising, though, that people will call in with that, and I ask them what they think the value is, and in many cases we'll get to the experts at the carrier, and they actually come up with a higher value than what the customer really thought it was going to be.
A lot of these classic cars have a lot of variation. You can go on eBay, find a 1976 Corvette that's $3,000, and I also saw one that someone had totally revamped, frame up, and added all kinds of bells and whistles.
Yeah.
They were asking $140,000 for this thing on eBay. So
you need some receipts for that. And some
my recollection of the last time we saw one is that the application includes how did you get it, how much did you pay, and a lot of that kind of information to make sure that you're not using this as a way to, buy a bad classic car, a $3,000 classic car, insure it for $25,000, and then it gets mysteriously stolen.
Yeah, that's it. It's done. Usually photos are pretty much. And a pickup truck is interesting because a lot of people like to buy and collect the old pickup trucks. But the question is they want to know how are you using it. And if you're using it to take items to the dump, they won't insure that.
Yeah, exactly. I think you also have to also ask how often you're driving it.
How often. They like it garage kept. They've actually deviated from that. It used to be they'd only keep it or insure it if it was garage kept, but now they've gotten away from that.
Have Bob or Yosef, have either you had any litigation on experiences that can be broadly?
Well, we've had clients, but a lot of it's privileged.
Okay, yeah, fun stuff.
Certainly, there's a market for those kind of vehicles, and the insurance industry responds to the market, and they have the expertise internally to come up with the value of the car that's very close and to avoid the moral hazard that Joseph referred to.
Would you all be able to help a client if they didn't agree with what the value of the car was?
Well, it's usually too late on the valuation. What happens is that you go and value a car, and then the insurance company looks back at its application and is like, "Now wait a second. You said you paid $10,000, but can we see some receipts?"
Well, what if it's appreciated?
Yeah, and that doesn't change. You just stated values. You don't have to agree how much the car's worth. But they will look at that application and say, well, how come you had a bankruptcy and, you still have the car that you say now is worth $50,000 and it's not in your bankruptcy estate? And you see things like that, all the different little representations. And that's where you start letting them look at it, because if there's any fraud in the application on a first-party property policy, they will void it. They will not pay you.
Right.
And they will probably send you to the MIA for a prosecution.
Right.
Because insurance fraud is a prosecuted crime, not as prosecuted as it should be, but outright fraud and those kind of stuff, they'll void it and they refer it to the MIA.
Well, let's come back to the MIA after we go forward and something else. I've known Bob since about 2010. He was gracious enough to allow me to start my law career as a law clerk for him. And I remember back then you had a lot of information laying around on bad faith claims. And, I think you might even had a business at some point discussing good practices for the insurance industry. So, give us a little bit of an overview of what a bad faith claim is.
And maybe explain what a bad faith claim is for the people that may not follow that.
Bad faith is an area of insurance law, and at one point I was responsible for all the bad faith claims against USF&G and then St. Paul. So I've had experience in a lot of states, and the law on bad faith varies tremendously from state to state. And in Maryland, we really have a very basic version of third-party bad faith and a statutory version of first-party bad faith. And the difference is this. A third-party claim is where your insurance company, that's the company you paid the premiums to for your personal automobile coverage or for your homeowner's coverage, is providing an attorney and is going to have to pay up to policy limits for a claim that's been made against you by a third party.
Okay.
So the third party, of course, is not a party to the contract. The contract is between the insurance company and you, the named insured, and you have been sued, and it's a third-party claim. And where you get into the duty of good faith, which is what we're really talking about, is that it is a common law obligation of insurance companies in Maryland, and it's recognized in a case called White versus State Farm and the cases that then follow it. And the idea is that since the insurance company is going to control the defense of the claim against you, they're responsible if they have an opportunity to settle the case within policy limits, and they fail to do so. And what happens is, if indeed the insurance company is in bad faith in the way they've handled a claim, then any excess amount that you owe when the judgment for the third party has been entered against you that's above your policy limits will still be the responsibility of the insurance company. So essentially, you've opened up the insurance policy limits. First-party bad faith goes to first-party claims, and first-party claims are those that you make directly against your insurance company. So you have collision coverage. You have homeowners coverage that protects your home. And say you experience a fire at the house and you make a first-party claim for the repairs and the insurance company doesn't treat you as you see it in a fair and reasonable way. There's a statute that was enacted in 2007 that allows you, with your attorney, to make a bad faith claim with the Maryland Insurance Administration, and there are various exceptions and exclusions, but generally that's where you have to go first. And it's a difficult process in the sense that there is an awful lot of paperwork, and it hasn't really borne out, I think everybody would concede, as a particularly effective process. It hasn't seen a lot of traction. Right. You don't see much in the way of these cases going to court.
You can we've looked, and we've never found a case that went to trial. And that says something that people, because everywhere else in the country, you go to Pennsylvania, it's a free-for-all, and everyone's asserting bad faith claims willy-nilly. And in Maryland, crickets. And when you look at the MIA's opinions, because the MIA reports what happens, your rough odds of a successful bad faith claim are about like 7 to 15%, depending on the year. And the amount of bad faith claims is steadily falling because the general wisdom and the general wisdom among lawyers is that it's just not worth the trouble. It's a better resolution for the client to just go to court and have a contract claim, and trying to argue that the insurance company mistreated their client. It takes so much extra time that it's not worth the client's trouble.
Yeah, I think our experience is if you have a bad claim situation, it's probably best to go right to the insurance commissioner yourself, right, initially, and see if you can get a resolution. They do look out for you.
Yeah, there's a separate complaint procedure that people use under the unfair claim practices statute. That's 27303 as opposed to 27101, and that process has what happens is you file a complaint, which you go online, you fill out the form. An investigator calls you up, gets some data from you, talks to the insurance company, and in my experience, they get you straight answers. They get you straight answers with documentation that no lawyer will get you without having to pay $10,000 in discovery.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if there's a paperwork error, then it gets accelerated up the train right away, and it gets resolved.
Yeah, when the commissioner gets involved, the insurance companies pay attention pretty quickly.
It's,
and they get you the answer.
So that's the main. So for anybody listening to MIA is the Maryland Insurance Administration, and they're the regulatory body for all of Maryland and all the insurance companies.
Yeah, they're more of a consumer advocate to make sure that the consumers are being treated fairly.
They have another hat where they are the regulator of all things insurance.
Absolutely.
And they do a lot of financial investigation stuff that you don't see because they just make sure all the companies are solvent.
Sure.
And they also are the same people that go and regulate the insurance producers.
Yeah.
And so they you only really see the consumer hat because that's the one you get to actually use.
Yeah.
But there's it's a very important agency.
And they still approve rates, I think. I think it's pretty complicated.
No, they approve rates. They approve forms. Right. Since the Supreme Court made it clear that the states have primary responsibility for regulating the insurance industry within the borders of the state. They have a lot of authority, and they're very effective. They have very good people over there, and they're part of their job is to watch out for the public and make sure that the insurers in Maryland are being treated correctly.
Yeah. Let's pause this conversation. We have a call coming in from Joe in Westminster about an open accident case. I don't know if we can actually hear too much of this on the air. We might have to see where it is. Hey, Joe, you're on the air.
Hi, thanks. This concerns a auto accident case that has been resolved or has been settled, but it's still open.
But without saying any names or anything, what's the general question about that case?
Okay, it was settled in the accident 2011, settled 2015, but was told that if I took the benefit then at the settlement, I might be billed by Medicare, by the therapy, and the hospital later. And the attorney said, would you want me to try to take care of that so you have no comebacks? That has not yet been taken care of.
So there was open, just so I can clarify.
It sounds like they're medical liens.
Yeah, open medical liens. And medical liens weren't covered with the initial settlement. Is that correct?
Kind of. I have not yet been given formal medical liens.
Well, I think that this is, when you settle a liability case, you have an obligation to pay all the providers who treated you. And you also, if Medicaid treats you, there's a whole procedure for that I've never had to deal with, so I don't know it, but it's complicated.
The attorney said he would take care of all those possible liens.
Yeah, that's a normal thing for an attorney to do, and there's probably the money to pay them is locked up in an escrow account to settle, which is what normally happens. And the attorney's probably at a minimum is going to wait 3 years until after it when all the statutes of limitations run, and that seems like a pretty normal thing. That it can happen because, if you're not negotiating, that people will stall.
Well, one of the things I would say to you, Joe, is that, have this conversation with your attorney. Go back to the attorney, ask about if the Medicare lien has been taken care of and the other medical liens have been taken care of. And if they haven't, have a conversation with them and see when they plan on taking care of those liens. But and if there is more problem, then you might need to have a conversation with another attorney after that. But
yeah, but it sounds like you're doing that. This sounds like a normal thing. You should just yell at your attorney for being slow. I encourage you to do that.
Communicate. Nice.
Communication's always great.
Be nice to your attorney.
Yep. All right. Thanks for calling in, Joe. And Joe, you were the first caller, so I'm going to put you on hold. You will get the Towson Deli North gift card. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to our next break.
WCBM, Baltimore.
Keep the umbrella handy here today. Scattered showers, even thunderstorms for us here as we finish out our weekend. Some drier weather ahead as we look towards the business week. It'll be cooler today. High temperatures only mid part of the 60s. Showers tapering off here tonight. Temperatures drop down into the mid 50s. We're in and out of the clouds on Monday. Slight chance for a shower or two tomorrow. Highs around 70. Sunshine Tuesday and Wednesday. Middle to upper 70s. I'm Ken Boone from the Weather Channel for Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Synergy Realty Company, LLC, is a boutique real estate brokerage built to serve you. Thinking about selling your home? Sellers just mention this ad to list your home for sale with a 1.5% listing fee, which includes a home staging consultation and professional photography. Call 443-776-1846. We also have buyers covered. If you know a first-time home buyer, have them call 443-776-1846 to sign up for a free home buyer seminar that could save them thousands on closing costs, home inspections, and warranties. Are you a real estate investor? Maximize your portfolio by calling 443-776-1846 to schedule a free consultation. Or visit Synergy Realty Company online at synergyrealtyexperts.com or call them 443-776-1846.
If you're currently thinking about buying a home or refinancing your mortgage, it is very important to choose a solid, reputable title company to handle your real estate closing. And one of the best around is Summit Title Company. Summit Title has handled thousands of real estate closings in Maryland since 1985. And they are committed to the highest level of service at competitive fees. They're owned and managed by experienced real estate attorneys who work with a dedicated, professional staff to ensure smooth quality service for each transaction. Summit Title is located in the heart of Towson, but their settlement officers travel to any location in Maryland that is convenient for closing. So if you or someone you know is buying a home or refinancing a mortgage, you should contact Summit Title Company. Their phone number is 410-583-5353, or you can find them online at summittitlecompany.net. Most doctors are not trained to diagnose and treat hidden car accident injuries like muscle spasms, back pain, neck pain, and headaches. The problem is that soft tissue injuries are not always visible on x-rays. One of the best ways to detect hidden injuries is a thermography scan. Call Dr. Mitch Adolph, D.C. at 1711 York Road, Lutherville, 1-800-511-BACK to schedule your free thermography scan. Space is limited. Call 800-511-BACK today to schedule your free thermography scan.
Well, I thought I was smart, and then I got into this smart home, and I don't feel so smart anymore, Kim.
You mean you don't need to know when the washer is done with its cycle and get a text message? Come on, Chuck. Let's think of the practical. Or how about the smart slow cooker? It's going to sit on your counter for 5 hours. Why do I need it to text me when it's done? Okay?
The Kim Komando Show, Sunday nights, 10 p.m. until 1. Exclusively on Talk Radio 680 WCBM. And now more of Law Talk with Bill Sherwood on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were greeted by Joe with a question, and prior to that, we were speaking about the MIA, the Maryland Insurance Administration. If a consumer wanted to actually file a complaint against some an insurance company, could anybody here want to give a good idea on what to do?
It's a pretty simple procedure. For a lot of it, we often found ourselves in a position for small claims where we have to say that, we'd love to do the work, but it's also not cost effective to hire a lawyer. And for the standard procedure thing, it's not imminently required. You don't need a lawyer. You can just call somebody up. You can just call up the MIA and go through that process, and they ask you for information. At least now, of course, obviously I'm a bit biased because I am a lawyer, so to me all their systems seem pretty simple. But in my experience, at least, they've always been very courteous, very fast, and very in the grand scheme of things. And they get you a gigantic stack of information about your claim. I mean, you have to file a Public Information Act request to see literally all of it, but you'll get a straight answer as to what's happening. And often that's something with, it's if I see the MIA's file on it, and I can see the MIA's file on it with a Public Information Act request, then I can tell whether a claim is viable. I can give people advice, as opposed to, when I don't have the information, I can't help someone.
So if somebody calls up and says that a claim was denied, and they have maybe just the denial letter, it limits the scope of what you can help with. But if they go through the process, go along with the MIA, file whatever form it is for the complaint, and get something back, it does help when they do lawyer up to be able to.
It gives you a ton of more information, and it's and it also, for many people, I think the reason that they're upset is that they get a claim thing and they don't understand it. They don't understand why their claim is being denied, and because no one understands insurance policies, because it makes no sense to learn about insurance policies because you'll only ever use the knowledge once. To me, it's eminently rational ignorance. It doesn't make sense to learn about technicalities. And but you follow the process, then what people want is a straight answer, and they want to know that they've followed through with the process, and the MIA does that.
Yeah, when you file one of these claims, one of the things that the MIA will require the insurance company to produce is the claim file. And the claim file is what the insurance company maintains from the time the phone rings and they're told that there's a claim until the claim is resolved. And they have professional claim adjusters, and they have reps, and they have assistants, and everything is going onto the computer, onto the hard drive, into the claim file on that individual claim. And so you get a pretty good idea of what the insurance company has done on the claim and why.
Hey, Bob, can you speak just for a second on the responsibility that the agents have? So you have a claim and something's not covered. So how does it differ if you go on your own and buy a policy through an 800 number where you've sort of done this on your own versus buying a policy through an agent? What's the agent responsibility to the client? What's the client's responsibility? Are you better able to defend a person that's actually had an agent involved in the process versus the person that's going directly to an 800 company to buy coverage?
Well, Joseph and I represent both insurance companies and policyholders, and I think what you're really asking about is policyholders and whether they're better served going onto the internet to buy their coverage or through an agent. And of course, there are pros and cons on both. But the fact is that when you go onto a website of an insurance company and buy coverage, you are pretty much locking yourself into whatever terms and conditions are part of the transaction between you and the website. And when you go to an agent, you have expertise. You get to pick and choose what kind of coverage you want. We were talking earlier about specific types of cars where you want to have coverage for a car that for whatever reason has a different value than the ordinary vehicle that most of us drive and insure on a regular basis. And also the fact is that the agent has an obligation to you. You have a contract as a policyholder, as somebody who's gone to an agent and the agent's gone out to get the insurance coverage for you, the agent has some responsibility, limited responsibility, but some responsibility for making sure that they get the right coverage for you.
Right. To me, it seems like another level because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, as an agency, we carry errors and omissions coverage, and it just seems to me that, not that I'm advocating suing agents, obviously, but you don't have that option. If something happens and you've never interacted with an agent, that's gone, right? That whole level of holding someone else accountable.
It depends on which insurance company it is. With Geico, there's an actual corporation called Geico Insurance Agency. And if you want to do anything complicated with your website, then you have to go call them and talk to an actual human. To me, the reason you buy the policies over the internet is because you don't like talking to people. And I sympathize with that because, that's my native preference in the world.
Well, I think people perceive that you're going to pay less, but that's not necessarily true either. Yeah. In fact, a lot of cases,
no, exactly. I'm sure that
less with an agent.
Exactly. I'm sure that the people, because the agent has to compete with the internet, and everyone knows the score. Yeah. So I'm sure the prices level out. I think the other part of your question is in terms of the claim handling process. Some agents will have connections to their insurance companies, and especially if they're independent agents, they often if they have huge market shares, if you on a commercial level, then they're important clients for their insurer. And they have leverage by calling the insurer up and saying, are you really going to deny this borderline claim? Yeah. They can also help you get straight answers, because I'm sure that the people at Allstate.
Absolutely. I mean, we want to do everything we can for our client because if the client doesn't stay, we don't get paid. So if we can help somebody get a claim settled, I mean, not that it's not my money. I want to see the customer get paid because technically it's not my money. I want them happy. I want them paid, and we go out of our way to try to help.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the customer service you get when you have a relationship with the actual person, because you know the people and you also know the people in Allstate, and
where to go.
And it's a more personal transaction, and you know who to call to complain, who to call to send the complaint to, and that can often diffuse problems before you ever need to talk to a lawyer.
Yes. When we represent policyholders, we often contact the agents early on. The agents have a much better idea of what's gone on so far and what the reasons are that the person's in our office, the policyholder's there, and concerned about their coverage. And the agent is actually, under Maryland law, a producer. You as an agent are licensed as a producer, and there are different types of producers, sometimes agents, sometimes brokers. Brokers generally represent the insurance companies and are going out and getting the insurance companies' clients and businesses to insure, and agents generally represent the policyholders.
Well, anytime you buy something online, too, you do have a bunch of click-through menus. Have you read this section? Who actually reads that section? Maybe one out of...
no one reads the section. Yeah. It's an infamous legal fiction that people read that small print.
So, and if you're buying a policy, insurance policy, and it's got all these little click-throughs, and you click, yes, I read it, yes, I read it. I mean, is the consumer going to be held accountable for all that little content in there?
Yes.
So there's the problem.
The other thing that's scary that we're starting to see that bothers me, they're now allowing consumers, even with the direct companies that are buying for an agent, to go online themselves and make changes to their policy. So if you go out over the weekend and buy a car, they're going in and adding the car, and then they're forgetting to, I forgot to put collision on, and 3 months later, the car is in an accident, and
I'm certainly we've seen it with people who they will have they'll own a house, and they'll own a house, so they'll go get a homeowner's policy, because that's what you do. But if you don't live in the house, you need a dwelling policy, which is used for rentals, different policy. Yeah. And if it's the wrong policy type, they will deny your claim.
Absolutely.
Actually, I represented someone a while back that did that same situation. That policy wasn't checked off. Sure enough, a few months down the road, there was an accident of questionable, where everybody was like, well, we don't know who actually caused the accident. And we're still,
And referring back to Joseph, a common example of that is a parent dies or parents die, the kids decide they're going to rent the home, and maybe even it's to a family member. Maybe they're paying rent or they're not paying rent. And then that literally becomes a different policy form, and a claim happens, and the insurance company says, sorry, and I don't know if there's a leg to stand on.
It's a very complicated, I could literally talk for 50 pages of different cases about where you reside clause and the homeowner's insurance policy means. But if you have homeowner's insurance policies for owner occupied, and if the owner doesn't occupy, then they're not going to pay, at least not voluntarily.
Is that defendable?
In most states.
All right,
it's very ambiguous.
Hold that question. We got another commercial break right now.
WCBM, Baltimore.
Spice up your wardrobe with Needlepoint. Baldwin Belts is a Baltimore-based needlepoint company offering Maryland-themed and other various custom-designed belts as well as accessories. All their products are 100% hand-stitched, handmade, and are guaranteed to last. Choose from one of Baldwin Belt's unique designs or customize your own belt to tell your individual story. Their custom-made products make great wedding gifts and graduation presents. Have a big event coming up? Customize a key fob to use as promotional product or gift item. Visit BaldwinBelts.com for more information.
Synergy Realty Company, LLC, is a boutique real estate brokerage built to serve you. Thinking about selling your home? Sellers just mention this ad to list your home for sale with a 1.5% listing fee, which includes a home staging consultation and professional photography. Call 443-776-1846. We also have buyers covered. If you know a first-time home buyer, have them call 443-776-1846 to sign up for a free home buyer seminar that could save them thousands on closing costs, home inspections, and warranties. Are you a real estate investor? Maximize your portfolio by calling 443-776-1846 to schedule a free consultation. Or visit Synergy Realty Company online at synergyrealtyexperts.com or call them 443-776-1846.
As a small business owner, keeping up with the ever-changing marketing and social media trends can be difficult and time-consuming. Let SK Creative Solutions take the responsibility off of your plate. At SK Creative Solutions, they offer various marketing services such as social media management, website design, search engine optimization, and graphic design. SK Creative Solutions is a one-stop shop for all of your small business marketing and advertising needs. Grow your business today with the power of social media and website marketing. Visit skcreativesolutions.com for more information.
Stay connected and informed with the latest news at the top of every hour. Then talk about it on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com.
The machine of a dream. Such a clean machine. With the pistons a pumping. And the hubcaps all green.
And now more of Law Talk with Bill Sherwood on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com.
Welcome back to the last segment for this, our first hour here. And I do got to give a shout out to Noah. Thank you for being back this week. You're always a great DJ as well as engineer. And before the break, before I even do that, let's give out the numbers again. Please give us a call. The number is 410-922-6680 or 1-800-922-6680. This week's show is the Insurance Gurus. We've got Bob Symes as our guest. And before the break, we were having a conversation, and I'll let John reiterate his last question out before. Do you recall? Okay.
No,
okay,
I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Well, I think Bob was going to add something to the conversation.
About the way you reside clauses.
Yeah,
we were talking
clause.
about.
My apologies.
Sorry,
you
you threw me off. I was going to sleep
like
over
what?
here.
We were talking about coverage and the agent's responsibility, and Joseph mentioned that he could talk for a long time on what residency means in an insurance policy. And it's important for people to understand who are consumers of insurance that the language that is used in insurance policy is very important, because the claim that you have is a contract claim. It's based on the contract of insurance between you as the policyholder and the insurance company. And one of the issues that runs through case law in state after state is, what does it mean to be a resident? What does it mean to reside in a particular location? What does it mean to have domicile? And Joseph has done an incredible and terrific amount of research, and sooner or later I'm going to finish going through it, and we will get it published. But it's just a good example of how much variation you can get from one court to another and one state to another on what the terms of an insurance policy means. He's basically put together a paper that's about 50 pages long. Is that right?
Draft. It's, it needs to grow a little because people keep on having the dispute.
On what resides means.
Yeah, exactly. The form says, we insure the house, the 1, 2, or 3 family dwelling shown on the declarations page where you reside. And depending on which state you're in, how they punctuate it, and how the court sees at least 3 different kinds of ambiguity in the language, your result can change.
Yeah.
And it can change from, oh, your house burned down, here's the $250,000 check, to policy, what policy, we won't even refund your premium, and we suspect that it was fraud to get the policy to begin with. It's a huge difference based on a tiny little paragraph.
And if you buy the policy on a website, then you're going to be locked in to whatever the court in that particular venue and jurisdiction thinks it resides means. On the other hand, if you buy it from John and you call him up because circumstances have changed, new mortgage holder, you haven't quite finished moving into a new home, whatever it may be, he has responsibility. And so there's a good example, right, with what we're talking about, and contract construction that insurance agents can be very valuable.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the interview process is to ask what the agent did.
And I would encourage, too, on that, following up with that, is just be upfront when you have changes in your home and your status. If you have people that have passed away, you're still living in the house, be upfront with your agent because it could really burn you in the end.
Exactly, yeah. You lie to your agent, and that's on you. But you tell the agent the truth, and then the agent
then it's on the agent.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have the risk.
I'm just picturing someone who will go online. They bought a vacation house somewhere and they plan on splitting their time or something or other.
Yep.
They're going to be in North Carolina, the Outer Banks for a while, and then come back to Maryland, and then maybe somebody leaves something cooking in the fryer and they walk away or something.
About that.
The 3 bears, didn't that happen?
A lot of the big cases are actually about the person who has a vacation home, and if you had a vacation home, does he really reside? Where does he reside? Between one and the other. And if you have an agent, then the agent will go and tell the underwriters, and you'll have a record that you told them, and the underwriter won't turn around to be like, you tricked us, we're not paying.
Well, here's the muddying in the waters. What if they happen to rent that beach house out sometimes, and they reside there too?
Tell the agent. Tell the agent,
and then the agent will sort it out.
And a lot of times, and you guys are involved with real estate. Yeah, get proof. But in the real estate, you tell us, a lot of times people get a better and a lower mortgage rate if it's considered a primary home versus a vacation home. So, again, pay the extra half a point or quarter of a point or whatever to have that designated properly so that it's insured.
Let's hold this conversation. There's someone who wants to give us a compliment, so we always got to take those.
Wow. All right.
I think we were speaking to Sally.
Yes, I just wanted to tell you how informative your program is. I've learned so much, and I just want to thank y'all.
Well, thank you. We want to keep our listeners very happy, and I believe we do have to cut this call short. But call in and compliment us anytime.
Sally, thank you. That was wonderful.
Sally. Thank you, Sally.
All right, we're going to go to our commercial break on that high note.
Is that your sister?
Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Stay connected and stay informed on the #1 news talk station, Talk Radio 680, WCBM, Baltimore, and WCBM.com.
House Republicans turn up the heat on the Justice Department. I'm Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
Last week we sent a subpoena, and then on Thursday we discovered that they are not going to comply with our subpoena.
Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes on Fox and Friends drawing a line in the sand.
The only thing left that we can do is we have to move quickly to hold the Attorney General of the United States in contempt.
The House committee looking into allegations of DOJ and the FBI abusing surveillance powers in scrutinizing the Trump campaign. The Justice Department saying it is not in a position to provide information regarding the committee's request. Deal or no deal, President Trump has until Saturday to decide whether to withdraw from the Iran nuclear agreement, and those on both sides are hoping to convince him. Fox's Gernal Scott has more live.
Steve, many members of Congress are concerned the Iran agreement is, as the president would call it, a bad deal. Among them, a non-Republican. Connecticut Independent Senator Joe Lieberman on Fox's Sunday Morning Futures says the deal gave away America's leverage.
In return for a pause in their nuclear program if they're keeping their word, which they don't have a good reputation for doing.
Lieberman says Iran also got billions in cash it uses to support terrorism. Allies like England want to convince the president to stick with the deal, and its top diplomat will present those options in Washington this week, Steve.
Gernal, about 1,700 residents on Hawaii's Big Island can't return home yet as a volcano continues to spew lava. Hundreds of small earthquakes also rattling the area.
The bottom line is that we've got additional outbreaks of lava within Leilani subdivision, just as we anticipated. It's still a fairly low level of lava output, but small lava flows are starting to form and move a few tens of yards away from this active fissure.
That's Tina Neal with the U.S. Geological Survey. Lava destroying at least 5 homes. Fox News, fair and balanced.
Listen, my life changed because someone was there to get me to use drugs. No one can understand. Whether or not they've struggled with addiction themselves, people seem to think that having someone who will listen is going to help make it better. I'm realizing that I need help.
I'm listening.
I need help. I'm realizing that I think that having someone who will listen is going to help make it better. Whether or not they've struggled with addiction themselves, people seem to understand. No one can get me to use drugs. My life changed because someone was there to listen.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
The first hurdle on the road to the midterm elections coming up soon.
Democrats have high hopes for the midterms. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi says she plans to serve again as House Speaker if Democrats flip the House. President Trump told supporters at the National Rifle Association convention not to get complacent. But before the November midterms, there are primaries this week in West Virginia, Indiana, and Ohio, all places where Republican candidates are running for the opportunity to face Senate Democrats in states that President Trump won in 2016. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The Senate Republican primary in West Virginia is pretty tight, with Congressman Evan Jenkins, State Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, and former Energy Executive Don Blankenship all vying to unseat Democrat Joe Manchin. Another week and another jump at the gas pumps. The national average for regular rising 7 cents to $2.90 per gallon. That's according to the Lundberg survey, which tracks gas prices nationwide. An award-winning South African movie director makes a deadly mistake.
Carlos Carvalho was reportedly warned to give Gerald the giraffe space as a wild animal on a game reserve near Johannesburg, but chose to try and film up close. The giraffe headbutted Carvalho, fatally throwing him some 16 feet. This is the second incident in a week in South Africa of a wild animal becoming aggressive when humans get close. Earlier, a lion attacked a man who had hand-reared him when the man, wildlife reserve owner Michael Hodge, got out of his car. The lion was shot dead after dragging the injured Hodge into bushes. In Johannesburg, Paul Tilsley, Fox News.
A bombing inside a mosque in Afghanistan killing at least 14 people and wounding more than 30. The mosque was being used as a voter registration center at the time. No claim of responsibility yet, but a Taliban spokesman says they didn't do it. The Taliban and ISIS oppose democratic elections. I'm Steve Rappaport, Fox News Radio.
Stimulating talk, breaking news on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Scattered showers, even thunderstorms for us here this afternoon as we finish out our weekend. Otherwise cloudy and cooler. High temperatures, middle part of the 60s. Showers tapering to an end here tonight, middle 50s. Rated out of the clouds on Monday, it'll be a little milder. Slight chance for a few showers. Highs around 70. I'm Ken Boone from the Weather Channel for Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
It's May, and that means it's time to celebrate Mom. Rescue Natural Supplements has a deal that you do not want to miss. Everything is on sale, including natural supplements for heart health, energy, sleep problems, weight loss, stress, blood sugar, immune health, digestion, and so much more. Treat the woman in your life to the gift of good health. Go online and shop today at myrescueproducts.com. That's MYRESQ products.com. Or call and speak to one of the knowledgeable, friendly consultants who can help you find just the right product. Call toll-free at 1-800-26-ALIVE. That's 1-800-262-5483. And mention the code WCBM-MOM to get bonus free shipping. Use the same code when you shop online. Once again, it's WCBM Mom. Slash pricing won't last long, so shop and save today. And don't forget to listen to Rescue Healthline with yours truly, Sean Casey, and Dr. Jeffrey Shapiro. Sunday mornings at 8, right here on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
After all the sleep you cost your mom through the years, it's time to give it all back. I'm Scott Tannen, founder of Boll & Branch. This Mother's Day, give your mom the gift she deserves. Great sleep on Boll & Branch sheets. Our sheets are handcrafted from 100% organic cotton. They get softer over time. We guarantee she'll love them. She can try them risk-free for 30 nights. Now through Mother's Day, get $50 off your first set plus free shipping at BollandBranch.com. Promo code DOZE. That's BollandBranch.com. Promo code DOZE.
The WCBM studios are sponsored by Safe Retirement Solutions in Annapolis and Towson. Call Rod Baroe 410-266-1120 or visit saferetirementsolutions.com.
Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
Law Talk with Bill Sherwood is brought to you by Sherwood Legal Services.
The lawyers on air are not able to give advice about any given person's legal problem over the air. Giving legal advice requires confidentiality. Attorney-client privilege won't protect conversations literally being broadcast from a radio. If you call into this show, the attorneys don't represent you unless you sign a retainer. No paperwork, no representation. You have no expectation of privacy or attorney-client privilege on a call. This is a live broadcast. It does not get less confidential than this. The attorneys can't predict how any given legal matter will turn out. Lawyers give legal advice. They can't give you tailored advice about your legal problems without an in-person interview. Please call in with your general legal questions.
And now more of Law Talk with Bill Sherwood on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com.
Hi, this is Bill Sherwood. We're back for our final half hour of the show. And before the break, we actually had a nice compliment call come in, so we'll always take the compliments, so thank you. Sally. And then, thank you, Sally, wherever you were calling from. And then
maybe compliments ought to get a $40 gift card, yeah, right? Something we can find.
I think there's a limit to how much we can incentivize.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Sort of like, I'll give you the best compliment ever for a brand new car. So we've been talking today with Bob Symes, an insurance attorney for a long time, and my friend and mentor, as well as the employer for Yosef. And today we're also joined with Yosef and, of course, John. And we've been talking a lot about the insurance claim process, and I would think that, maybe we should go a little bit more into that, maybe talk about, uninsured motorist claims, or maybe some exclusions, something like that, because that's something that not a lot of people really know about unless they've, had the misfortune of having to need the uninsured motorist policy. So, Bob or Yosef, do you care to
maybe explain what it is first?
An uninsured motorist policy is a bet you take against being hit by an uninsured or underinsured motorist. So if you're driving along and you get hit by a car, then you'll sue them and their insurance will pay. And if they don't have insurance, then this policy will pay. It will also, and it works, let's say you have a $100,000 limit. It puts you into the position you would have been in had the person who hit you had a $100,000 limit. Which is a very weird way to think about it. What it's doing is protecting you from other people driving without insurance. Like, for example, if it's a stolen car, that's not covered. Or if they have a $30,000 policy and you have $100,000 in medical bills, they are covered, but they're only covered for $30,000 and then you're done. Well, your policy protects you if you get injured more than their policy limits, and you can collect the balance. It is a mandatory coverage. You cannot waive this because the law requires you to carry enough coverage to protect yourself. And it's, to me, the main reason, the main thing that high limits gets you in a personal liability policy and an auto policy.
Yeah, there are choices in limits, obviously. And I think from a liability or an uninsured motorist standpoint, and you all may be able to address this, but injuries, the big, right? If you or a family member could be killed by an uninsured motorist, that's
absolutely. Insurance is all about controlling and managing risk, and what you're doing with uninsured motorist coverage is managing and controlling risk. The way it operates is that you, John or Jane Doe, are in an accident and it's caused by the negligence of another driver. And you cannot control what the policy limits are of that other driver. So even though the other driver caused the accident, you may have very severe injuries. That other driver may have minimal limits in Maryland, $30,000 per person, $60,000 per occurrence. And if indeed you or a loved one, a family member, loses a limb or has other severe injuries, which happen more often than we like to think in automobile accidents, $30,000 is not going to cover the loss. Now, if you've bought uninsured motorist coverage, as Joseph alluded to, it's not just uninsured motorist coverage, it's underinsured motorist coverage. So if you, in your own policy, insuring yourself and family members, have coverage with $300,000 per person, or $250,000 per person, $500,000 per occurrence, then you're going to have an additional amount of coverage between the difference of your uninsured motorist limits of $250,000 per person and the $30,000 per person limits of the person who was responsible for the accident. And that's $220,000 that may very well be worth the investment in as far as premium dollars are concerned.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get confused. I don't know how many times people have come to me and say, well, why should I spend money for uninsured motorists on the road? And what I think what we ought to make people understand is uninsured motorists is for you, not really the uninsured driver on the road. So a lot of times that's overlooked, or we see a lot of people coming in, not knocking the 800 companies, but with lower limits of uninsured motorists than they actually carry with liability. And I say, why? The uninsured motorist is for you. The liability is for other people. for other people.
So it has to do with your also like the way that third party bad faith works. A lot of times, if you have a very low limit, then what happens is your insurance company says, here, take the limits, and the other side settles for that, because there's no money pursuing most Americans. So they say, oh, $30,000, we'll take our money, we'll take our check now, no one needs to go to court, everyone goes home, and you often wind up without anyone chasing you. Sometimes people chase you, sometimes they're uninsured motorist carriers in the business of chasing people who didn't carry enough insurance, will totally chase you and drive you into a bankruptcy to get paid. And like you're going to a bankruptcy because if you just tell them to pound sand, then they will just take away your license. Yeah. And they will make you pay.
Yeah. Can you, I actually several years ago, it was an attorney, daughter was away at school in California and was actually struck by an uninsured driver as she was walking as a pedestrian. And he had I don't know if it was a $100,000 or a $300,000 uninsured motorist limit, but I remember them coming back saying they wish after the fact that he had more in uninsured motorists, because you could collect on something like that, correct? Is that
exactly? Because you can collect because you were killed by an uninsured motorist,
right?
But you obviously I don't know the particular facts, so I can't. You need to see
this
facts
has been
to be
years
certain.
ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but the other thing you also see with that is a lot of people will buy coverage. They'll buy an umbrella. And a standard umbrella is a liability umbrella.
Yes.
A liability umbrella will go pay off people. So, if you have a $1.5 million liability umbrella and you flatten a doctor, then okay, you're going to be paying. But it doesn't help you if you're flattened.
Don't assume because your umbrella, you've got 1.5 or 2 million on an umbrella that you're going to have that on your uninsured motorist. You need to make sure that you've got the limit that you want on uninsured motorist.
As a policy question, I know the minimums are $30.60 in Maryland. So wouldn't it make more sense maybe to say, maybe let's raise the minimums for a lot of the for what we need to have as insurance?
And you might want to explain the 30-60 too.
Our problem with that is if you raise the limit, every additional dollars of coverage costs less on the pyramid. The cheapest dollar is like the millionth. The most expensive is the first, because that's the most likely to pay out. Mm-hmm. If you raise the minimum limit, sure, everyone will have more coverage and will be great. But what you'll also do is raise the price of insurance. And raising the price of insurance disproportionately penalizes poor people. Because they actually, their dollar is more valuable than my dollar. Because they've got less dollars, and the more money you have, the less valuable it's additional dollars.
But a lot of times, the difference between the $30,000 per person, $60,000 per accident, if you want to bring somebody up to the next level at 50, 100, or 100, 300, you'd be shocked it might be $35 or $40 every 6 months. So it's not a significant amount of money.
But if somebody's price conscious and they're cutting every penny,
significant to you and significant to me and significant to someone who barely has enough money to eat are all very different things.
Very true.
And when you say you must buy $50,000, what you're doing is you're taking that agency away from an individual person who can make a decision about what he wants to do with his money, and you're telling him that you have to go and buy this product.
But a lot of it depends on a person's assets and what they have at risk.
Exactly.
And I think it's individualized, and for the guy that has assets or the gal that has assets and riding around on a 30-60 policy where and they're not made aware of, hey, you could spend $30 or $40 to protect those assets is not responsible.
That's a decision, and I think that's a decision that right now we leave it to them to make.
Or would it be a better policy thing where if somebody has a lot of points or whatever, we make them buy a higher minimum?
I think it's all about education. When people come in to purchase a policy, you need to be educated on what's available and then allow that consumer to make a choice and a decision. But if you don't have the right education and brought up to, you don't
make an informed decision, then you're not really making a decision. You're just throwing a dart.
Give me the cheapest price. Not always the best way to go.
So, to clarify, you're able to actually collect on uninsured or underinsured motorists, even if you're not actually in the car, you happen to have the policy and you're walking, and sometimes it's possible to be able to...
I need to read your policy to be certain that it didn't require it to be connected to the use of an automobile, but I think that's,
I'm pretty sure. I know
exactly.
PIP, you can be hit as a pedestrian.
Exactly, Well, PIP is a very weird and awesome side thing.
Can you guys explain the significance and the importance of having PIP versus not having PIP? Because one thing that drives me crazy is, we do free analysis on policies and people come in and they have PIP waived. So,
to clarify to all the listeners that the PIP is personal injury protection insurance.
Or no fault, I think it's referred to.
It's no fault in some states. It's part of the shift towards no faulting.
But maybe explain how it works. It's optional?
Yeah, exactly. It's an optional coverage that you're allowed to waive for you and your members of your family. And the idea is that you buy coverage that instead of saying, instead of being dependent on whether whose fault it is, then it just pays. It just pays based on medical bills. It pays based on lost wages. There's a formula in the statute, and you can buy coverage. And it's actually a pretty expensive coverage because, it pays every time. But it pays every time. You get into an accident, it does not matter if the accident is caused by you wrapping a car around a tree because you were, drunk and high, and it would, it doesn't matter. It still pays. Yeah. It protects you against your own negligence.
Right.
It's a legislative compromise that came about in 1972 when the compulsory insurance legislation in Maryland was passed. And at that point in time, with automobiles having really populated highways after World War II, and the amount of accidents and the injuries in the accident and the property damages in the accidents being so significant, there was a lot of debate over what the best way for a state to set up a system would be. And some states set up no fault, which meant that it didn't matter who was responsible for the accident. The insurance was just going to cover the loss, essentially. That's the simplest way to put it. And with PIP, that's personal injury protection, and it's part of a 2 or 3 statute section of this compulsory insurance legislation. And at first it was mandatory, and now it's no longer mandatory. But what you're buying when you buy your insurance coverage is liability coverage in case you're sued for doing something that causes injury to somebody else, coverage for the car itself or the property, and then uninsured motorist coverage, and then finally the PIP is coverage regardless of whether you caused the accident or somebody else caused the accident, of generally $2,500 or more for medical services.
Can you give us a couple examples of what?
We hold that question.
Okay.
We got to get ready to go to the break, and then we'll have our final small segment.
WCBM Baltimore.
Say, folks, if you own land, I'm sure you would love to have the time to work it, develop it, spend time with it. If so, go see my good friends at Mahindra. Because for a limited time, you can get one of Mahindra's best-selling tractors, the 2555 Shuttle with loader, and get up to $9,000 off MSRP. With 55 horsepower, it's great for all of you hobby farmers. Plus, the 2555 includes an industry-leading 7-year limited powertrain warranty. Mahindra also offers a full lineup of tractors, from 20 horsepower all the way up to 125 horsepower. For offer details or to learn more about the world's #1 selling tractor, visit MahindraUSA.com.
Take advantage of rock-bottom prices and test drive a Mahindra today at Security Equipment in Baltimore, or visit SecurityFNH.com. That's SecurityFNH.com.
Synergy Realty Company, LLC, is a boutique real estate brokerage built to serve you. Thinking about selling your home? Sellers just mention this ad to list your home for sale with a 1.5% listing fee, which includes a home staging consultation and professional photography. Call 443-776-1846. We also have buyers covered. If you know a first-time home buyer, have them call 443-776-1846 to sign up for a free home buyer seminar that could save them thousands on closing costs, home inspections, and warranties. Are you a real estate investor? Maximize your portfolio by calling 443-776-1846 to schedule a free consultation. Or visit Synergy Realty Company online at synergyrealtyexperts.com or call them 443-776-1846.
The Hilton Garden Inn Owings Mills, where we provide a positive environment for the always on-the-go guest to discover and connect while on the road, ensuring each trip is a wonderful experience at the Owings Mills Hilton Garden Inn. Call today, 410-654-0030, to reserve a date night package and have a good night's sleep in our newly renovated, nature-inspired design, allowing you to work and relax. Cook to order breakfast with award-winning service and inviting new social spaces. The Hilton Garden Inn Owings Mills, Maryland is focused on making each stay enjoyable. To find out what Hilton Garden Inn Owings Mills can do for you, call 410-654-0030. Hilton Garden Inn Owings Mills has a full-service restaurant and bar offering dinner room service after a hectic day. Call today to make your reservations or to plan an event. 410-654-0030. The Hilton Garden Inn Owings Mills. Most doctors are not trained to diagnose and treat hidden car accident injuries like muscle spasms, back pain, neck pain, and headaches. The problem is that soft tissue injuries are not always visible on x-rays. One of the best ways to detect hidden injuries is a thermography scan. Call Dr. Mitch Adolph, D.C. at 1711 York Road, Lutherville, 1-800-511-BACK to schedule your free thermography scan. Space is limited. Call 800-511-BACK today to schedule your free thermography scan.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons at 3 on Talk Radio 680 WCBM.
And now more of Law Talk with Bill Sherwood on Talk Radio 680 WCBM and WCBM.com.
As we found out, if you do have a little deuce coupe, you want to make sure you let your insurance agent know about all the souped-up engine parts and everything else you'll be covered. Getting back to our last and final topic for this Insurance Gurus show, we were talking about PIP coverage, and I think Yosef was going to bring us home on that.
Yeah, so your PIP policy is going to cover you if, let's say, for example, you are driving and you wrap your car around a tree. It will pay the first $2,500 of your medical bills, which means it will pay your deductible. And you don't have to ever pay that money back if it turns out, you, like, for example, you wrapped around the tree because it turned out that all your steering system had been screwed up by the mechanic, and his policies pay, and you might get,
And you don't have to be worried about a claim being held against you and your rate going
exactly.
up.
And that's something that, like, Owen Reverse for early cars talked about. If the insurance pays, if your health insurance pays, for example, and then you recover for liability, you have to pay them back with 1/3 off for attorney's fees. There's a statute. But PIP doesn't ever get paid back. Yeah. You also could use it if you miss 2 weeks of work. You can use it to pay for the wages. And again, you don't have to ever pay that back. It's just, it's basically free money. Yeah. And that's the bet you're taking. The reason they did this is that they hope this would reduce the amount of litigation, and it would also mean that if you were a bad driver and you caused an accident, you're not going to be left out in the cold because your PIP carrier will step in, and at least you'll step in to go pay all those doctors. Yeah. And it's, so it protects you regardless, even if you're at fault, even if no one's at fault, and it protects you for the medical bills. There's no pain and suffering. I think it pays like 85% of wages. Yeah. And you don't have to have an elaborate procedure. You just file an application, and most of the time, barring exceptions, barring exclusions, then they give you their money. And if they don't, then they have to pay interest on it.
Yeah. So lost wages and medical expenses and policy deductibles, it's a pretty wide range.
Well, because it just pays you for each dollar of the medical bill.
And so they have to pay you within 30 days of your submission of satisfactory proof of the reasonable medical expenses that you sustained. And if they don't, then as Joseph said, interest starts to accrue.
Yeah. And you can be hit as a pedestrian, we were mentioning off air, which is interesting.
Actually, if you hit a pedestrian, and even if they're uninsured, your PIP covers the pedestrians you hit.
Even if it's pedestrian's fault.
Yeah, that's part of, and of course what that does is it means that if you flatten some guy who doesn't have a car, so he doesn't have a PIP policy, someone's going to cover him. In fact, that PIP you can't waive.
Yeah.
And the idea of the system is that this way you won't have people who have sudden accidental injuries related to cars, which is a huge problem, and out in the cold with no one to pay. This way there'll always be at least something, to cover the emergency room bill, because most of the time, if there's no insurance that pays for the bill, then what really happens is the hospital's left with the bag, because, what are they going to do? Sue someone with no job because he can't work because someone broke his legs? Yeah. I mean, that's really going to help.
So, I do want to thank Bob for coming in. It's been a pleasure. And I'm glad we hoodwinked you in. I'm sure we've educated somebody out there that might have.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
And your website should be lawrls.com, if I'm correct.
Right.
Okay. So if you have any complex insurance matters, look up lawrls.com, and you'll get a hold of Bob as well as Joseph, and they should be able to help you out.
Bob, want to throw his phone number out there in case people want to get a hold of him? Or
Sure. 410-366-5606.
There we go.
Good.
And then, of course, John, you're always in here with your with helping with the insurance questions as well. So
we're always open to policy reviews for anyone, whether they're insured with the Koch agency or not, and we hopefully can give out a lot of good advice, and point you in the right direction.
And what's your website and phone number as well?
It is Koch Insurance Agency, 410-931-1400. And the best way to get a hold of me is John Koch, JOHNKOCH, at Allstate.com. John Koch at Allstate.com.
And if for my shameless self-promotion, you can find me on the web at WSherwoodLaw.com. Again, WSherwoodLaw.com. We've actually got a radio website going now, and it's law-talk.show. law-talk.show. You can also find old episodes on Apple iTunes
podcast. Just Law Talk, Bill Sherwood. The episodes pop right up. So you pick your favorite.
Yes, please.
Spread the word.
And then the office number to be able to reach me is 410-366-4417. And again, any of the Law Talk episodes, we do want to ask people to submit their lawyer jokes for the week to be able to win a chance at a gift card.
So don't make me write lawyer jokes.
Otherwise we'll have to keep using Joseph to research all the lawyer jokes.
Maybe we could expand that to even general questions that people may have in reference to law.
Yeah, they're not as fun as lawyer jokes.
I'm a connoisseur of lawyer jokes.
So anything you want to talk to us about, if you haven't had a chance to call in and you want to reach out to us over the web, it's law-talk.show, and you can also look for us on Facebook as well. So we're trying to put everything out there. Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you soon next week. Thank you to Joseph and Bob and John.
Let's have Bob back again. What
yes,
do you say,
I'm happy to come back.
We didn't even get started with everything we wanted to talk about.
Such a great crew to spend my time with.
We can talk about the commercial general liability policies and occurrences.
Oh my God!
There's nothing like a term so ambiguous lawyers can't agree what it means.
We love those.
An hour and a half is not enough time.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We hope to see you next week.
Good afternoon.
Talk Radio 680.